I was never that impressed with Elizabeth Holmes. I remember when she was on the cover of magazine after magazine, celebrated as a shiny new female iteration of Steve Jobs. I was never really that impressed with Steve Jobs, although I do like and use Apple products. Jobs was no picnic, but Bill Gates was like a robber baron, assembling his Microsoft empire by buying out smaller companies, absorbing their intellectual property, and shoving it down the throats of consumers who weren't given an option. There's a story in the book, Fumbling the Future, where a young Steve Jobs toured the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center. There, he was shown one of their inventions, a mini-computer with an innovative graphical user interface and a rudimentary mouse. Jobs was suitably impressed. "This is awesome," he gushed. "You got any plans for this thing?" "Nah, it's just a toy," they replied, because Xerox made Xerox machines. So Steve Jobs raced back to Apple headquarters, and soon the Macintosh was born. So Gates was a creep and Jobs an opportunist, but Elizabeth Holmes put the con in Silicon Valley. We just finished watching The Dropout, and it was a most spectacular train wreck. I enjoyed everything about it, except that it really tried to humanize Holmes, which was still fascinating inasmuch as a take on abnormal psychology. If we accept what was presented in The Dropout as gospel, then Elizabeth Holmes was a product of emotionally frigid, waspish parents who only cared about appearances. After Elizabeth was raped at a college party, her mother's concept of maternal caring and soothing was to advise Elizabeth to simply put it away and not to ever think about it again. So Elizabeth learned how to compartmentalize pesky, inconvenient things like how she was selling a product that didn't work. Her father, whose claim to fame, or disgrace, was having been an executive at Enron, was so emotionally unavailable that he couldn't muster up even a hug for his own daughter. This daddy hunger set her up for her long entanglement with the much, much older Sunny Balwani, the first to succumb to her stringy, blonde, unblinking, blue-eyed, uncanny valley affect. I cannot for my life understand why so many old white men were duped by this automaton. Yeah, she had a good idea, or it seemed on the surface like a good idea, until you really think about the mechanics and the physics of it. Like, the only way you could run that many tests with such a small amount of blood would be for the information to be extracted from the one sample and processed mathematically somehow in some kind of virtual voodoo so quantum that it would be way beyond the scope of what they were even attempting and hopelessly failing at. And after 8 episodes, I still have no conception of how the Edison was supposed to do what it was supposedly supposed to do. Apparently, even the most mundane singular test resulted in the gadget overheating in a plume of noxious smoke like the bagel I left in the toaster oven too long. I completely understand the initial enthusiasm for Elizabeth's original good idea, which had the appearance of good intent behind it. But Walter White had good intent to provide for his family when he decided to buy an RV and cook meth. What? Breaking Bad was fiction? Yeah, well, so was Theranos. The whole thing, top to bottom, was a sham. The original concept, a pipe dream. The Edison and Mini Lab were a myth. The lab was fake. The minions, unfortunate enough to toil in their boiler room, named after Normandy, were bullied into submission, and the founder was a bloodthirsty, gothic, black-clad, literal vampire who glamored in true vampire fashion, apparently everyone she met. If Elizabeth Holmes had a conscience, or if it weren't compartmentalized away, it would be her own private hell that her original vision of saving lives was bastardized by her own hubris into endangering them. If you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe. Please consider supporting me on Patreon. Take care, and After Arts out.